Hello boys and girls, Andy Rafael from etechnics.com and welcome to another little video. We've changed our YouTube channel a little bit. A little bit hard to explain. Basically what we used to do is we used to do our reviews all video, and then we started going over to sort of written because we were getting more exposure that way and more people were actually looking at the reviews, but we were still doing sort of videos from time to time. Then we just had a big break, and that's because of my internet being absolutely shocking, where I moved and changed from 50 meg download to 5 meg download, and the upload was hindered. I used to get 5 meg upload, now I get 448 kilobytes. Thank you BT, you suck. So because of that the videos have lacked. I did explain this in my last video that the videos have been lacking, and that's one of the main reasons. The second is just generally time. These videos, you may think that we just film them and then that's it, but I sometimes make mistakes. I'm not perfect, and yeah, because of that I sometimes make mistakes, and that means refilming certain bits sometimes, but generally I'm getting a lot better. Go me. And I'm doing sort of things in one take, which hopefully I'm going to be doing today. So hopefully there won't be any distractions. The last video was a bit annoying because the door, basically yesterday it was like 34 degrees here at etechnics HQ, and because of that the door kept banging because I had all the windows open in the office, and today I've got the window open a little bit, and as you can appreciate, we've got this office that I'm in. There's a server, there's my main computer which has got 6990 in it. Now anyone who's got one of those, as soon as you start doing anything that's intensive it just goes 80 degrees and that's it. And because of that sitting next to it, God was it getting hot. And then I've got another computer system running where we're doing tests on the Asus Llano A75M Pro board, which is where I'm sort of going with this whole video. Yesterday we actually looked at the Asus F1 A75M Pro, and just sort of a general look at the box and the unboxing and then the actual motherboard. And today we're going to do exactly the same but with a Gigabyte board. So Gigabyte we deal with quite a lot, as well as Asus or Asus, depending on where you're from. And as soon as they heard that we were going to be reviewing a Asus Llano board, they wanted us to get straight in there on the Gigabyte board as well. So MSI, I'm looking at you. Send us a board over, and we've got 3 boards for comparison, which is good in a way because we do get to compare it when we actually come to do all our testing and benchmarks. And this is how our videos are going to change. Our videos are going to be more of like a first look at products as opposed to reviews of products, because we are going to leave it up to the written side of things. So if you are expecting video reviews from our YouTube channel, sorry, forget it, unsubscribe if you really want to, but trust me, there's going to be some really good stuff coming up. We're going to get more coverage of events and just general like overclocking and little bits and bobs like that, as well as your first look of products that aren't out yet, that kind of thing. Hopefully a lot of interviews with manufacturers and stuff as well when we go to these fancy events all over the world. So enough of me blabbing on. Gigabyte. This is the board that we're actually looking at today. It's the A75M-UD2H from Gigabyte. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take you off the tripod, going to have a little look at the box, exactly sort of what that entails, and then what we're going to do is have a look at the board and just tell you a little bit about it. But obviously NDA does restrict me in exactly what I can sort of explain to you. I can't explain anything to do with performance, can't explain anything to do with the processor. I will give you a look at the socket. We didn't with the Asus board, we didn't actually show you a look of the socket, and we had the Noctua NHD14 sort of towering over the socket, pretty much towering over the whole board, because of obviously the micro ATX form factor, much like this board. But there has been obviously a lot of pictures on the internet of the FM1 socket, so people know what it looks like, so we might as well just show you, but no performance figures. So without further ado, I'm going to take the camera off the tripod and show you this. And I'm sure you're all wondering what's on my t-shirt. How great is that? So right, let's get cracking. So as I said, it's the Gigabyte A75M-UD2H. So this is the box for it. Just wait for the wonderful autofocus to kick in. So it's a pretty simple box really. White box, Gigabyte, Super 4 on it. As we know, they do all these sort of branding techniques with this 333 acceleration. This is the Super 4, and it gives you some sort of typical 5,600 plus points in 3D Mark Vantage based off this motherboard, and it has dual link DVI 2560 by 1600 resolution, which is really nice if you're planning on using sort of multiple screens. There's a lot of information on here. There's the 333. So we've got the AMD Vision. It's AMD chipset, A75 chipset, FM1 socket. It's the ultra durable 3, so it's got all these fantastic sort of quality, robust features. The 333 acceleration. DirectX 11. If you didn't know, obviously Sandy Bridge doesn't utilise DirectX 11. AMD Llano will. So DirectX 11, much like Fusion that we've already looked at in the past. There's a DisplayPort connector apparently, USB 3.0 and SATA 3.0, which links in with the 333 acceleration. And these are some of the main sort of key features that Gigabyte have invested into this board. So as we said, it's the A75M-UD2H, and if I turn this over, you get sort of this mass amount of information thrown at you. So as said, it is part of the Super 4 sort of branding. So number 1 is super safe, and it just sort of gives you some information on that. The dual BIOS, 3TB support, 1 fuse per USB port, and solid Japanese capacitors, which are always good for obviously the best quality components. Number 2 is the super speed, because obviously we have USB 3, we have SATA 3, DirectX 11, so it has got all the latest and greatest features and technologies out today. Number 3, super savings. Obviously this board is aimed at people in mind who want efficiency and using the least amount of power whilst getting the best performance. So that's all down to some of the sort of components, MOSFETs, that kind of thing. And number 4, super sound. So just gives us information on the HD audio, Dolby Digital Home Theatre, and so forth. We'll get our first view of the board and the colour scheme, blue and white, and it does look quite nice. Looks like some of the boards that we've seen in the past. And then just a few little sort of bits of artwork indicating about the audio quality and things like that. So other than that, there's nothing else really sort of on the board apart from the same sort of information repeated on each side. Obviously there is a barcode sticker which just talks through some of the features. So obviously if you're looking at this board in a shop like PC World, the men with the purple shirts, or Best Buy, or wherever, you'd be able to sort of look at this, and then obviously we can get our Asus one and just sort of, yeah, we want to compare that with that, and yeah, it just really makes for an easy comparison. But enough of me blabbing on. What I'm going to do is open this up and see exactly what comes inside. So there's a little sticker with my address on it. I don't know why I'm hiding it. You can find our address on the internet quite freely. There you go. French manual. So if you are French or speak French or want to learn French, there you go. We get a installation user's manual, once again with the Super 4 branding on there. This talks through the specs, there's illustrations and pictures and all the information that you could possibly want or need. Driver installation disc. So AMD Fusion Utility DVD, it's got all your chipset drivers and so forth on there. A I/O panel shield plate, which it's not a bad design. It's still grey. We hate grey I/O panels, but it has got some colour coding on there, so yeah, it's not bad. But you can see the sort of connectivity options that we've got available from this, as to obviously if it's going to be suited for your needs. So DVI, lots of USB, audio, and so forth. We get a multilingual installation guidebook. So if you're not French and you're not English, you can use that. And you get the Dolby Home Theatre case badge sticker, as well as some SATA cables. The Asus board that we looked at only came with 2 right-angled SATA cables. This actually comes with 2 lots, so we get 4 in total, and they are right-angled. So there's them 2. Sorry, there's 1 is right-angled in each pack, so you get 2 that are right-angled and 2 that are normal. But they have got the metal clips on as well to secure them into place, even though they don't work that well with SSDs locking them into place. Other than that, we get the motherboard in its usual anti-static bag. So if I just move this box out of the way. So yeah, anti-static bag to keep everything nice and together. So if I turn this over and take it out, so here we go. So this is the the A75M-UD2H. There's a little bit of extra sort of packaging just to keep things from, because obviously this does move, just to keep things sort of together. So this is the motherboard. As we said, it has got a blue colour scheme, and it's similar to sort of what we've seen on Gigabyte boards in the past, not just, you know, the Llano based ones that have been speculating about, but other boards that Gigabyte have released. Blue and white, it's okay. It's going to go with obviously most components in a system, but obviously it's all down to personal preference. So taking a look at the socket, which we wouldn't actually do on the Asus board, but here we are on the Gigabyte. Here's the FM1 socket, so you can see the pin design is a lot different as to what we've seen in the past, but the same sort of design as in to put your processor in and lock it down into place. You can see, like AMD have been doing, they've cut away some of the bracket for the CPU cooler, so it's just literally these bits here, and obviously they can be taken off aftermarket coolers anyway. There's quite a lot of clearance around the sort of socket area for obviously the latest and greatest largest coolers, and if we show you, yeah, there's my lovely feet. Here we go, there's the NHD14 on the Asus board, so that gives you an idea as to sort of how it looked on there. So we should be able to, yeah, 6 screens, we should be able to obviously put that on here and see how it compares against the Asus board in terms of sort of cooling and obviously if things fit, which we can't see any problem why it wouldn't, because of the amount of clearance that we've got sort of between the passive heatsink over here and the memory slots. So having a look at the memory slots, we can see, just like we'd expect with AMD, there are 4 memory slots, and they are denoted obviously dual channel, and it's denoted with the blue colouring or white colouring as to sort of how you're going to run your modules. Now, memory support on this board is up to 32 gig of memory, and the Asus board actually supports 64, but we do think that's a bit overkill. Even 32, who's going to be using 32 gig with this? But it supports 32 gig of DDR3 up to 1866 megahertz. So sort of, you know, you're going to be okay with the sort of usage and market that this board is aimed at. Is going to be perfect for the amount of memory and the speed of memory that you're going to want to use with it. So no problem there at all. And one thing we will say though is, if you are going to be using 1866 megahertz memory, you can't use 4 modules. You can only use 2 or 1. So that's a little bit annoying, but to be honest, kits are coming down in price. So if you are looking at getting, say, 8 gig, you know, you can get 2 4 gig modules for a decent price these days. So moving off of that onto the Sata ports, we've got our Sata ports down here, and in total there are 5, which is very much like we saw on the Asus board, but the Asus board's actually got 6, so 1 up. But what you actually find is it supports exactly the same RAID features, 0, 1, 10 and JBOD, no RAID 5, and this is all powered through the A75 chipset, which is under this Gigabyte branded passive heatsink. So it is sad to see only 5 ports, because obviously this is going to be aimed at the HTPC market, media market, servers, and just general light usage, and people may want the extra storage options, which obviously you don't get with the Gigabyte board. So moving away from that, we can see that we've got a standard ATX24 pin over here, and some redundant features next to it. You can see fan headers, we've got 1 up here. There's also 1 over here for your system fan. And from what we can see, that is about it, which isn't fantastic. We would expect more, but we've got all our front panel connectors down here, COM port, USB 3.0 native, USB 2.0, Firewire, why, I don't know, front audio over here, the Dolby Home Theatre and the audio chip and everything over there. And probably the bit that you're wanting to know about the most, which is the expansion slots. So over here we have got a variety of expansion slots for sort of, you know, your various different needs. There is at the top a PCI Express X16 slot, which runs at X16. There's another PCI Express slot down here, X16, but it does run at X4 speed, so just be aware of that. I don't want to slate this board too much, but the Asus board does have PCI Express X16, and they both operate at X16 as far as from what we can tell. So Gigabyte is sort of lacking a little bit there. We also have a PCI Express X1 slot over here, And for the legacy users who may have obviously TV cards from the past, we have a legacy PCI slot over here. Now, multi-graphics technology, there is support for AMD dual graphics, so there is the ability to obviously run a dual GPU configuration, and because of this board and the APU technology, you actually find that you can crossfire, hybrid crossfire, the GPU that's on board the APU with your graphics card here, as long as it's part of I believe it's 6670 or the 6000 series Radeon graphics card. So that's really good news if obviously you want some discrete graphics going on, but you obviously want the best performance from your chip as well. So great news there. The only other thing that we've really got to show you on this board is the I/O panel. So if I move this board over a little bit, you see the I/O panel is obviously going to be something that a lot of users are keen to see what's available, purely because if they are using this for HTPC purposes, then you're going to want to know obviously if it takes your audio source, your display preference, and what type of connections it's got. So I'm just going to put this down, and you can see that we have two USB ports over here. Now these are just USB 2.0. There's a PS2 mouse and keyboard combo port, DVI, VGA, you've got DisplayPort, HDMI, optical SPDIF. So there's plenty of display options which we didn't see on the Asus board. We only saw a few. This has actually got 4 various different connections on there, depending on your preference, if you've got a monitor or a TV, HD TV, that kind of thing. We can see there's another 2 USB 2.0 ports here. Firewire, why motherboard manufacturers keep adding it, a lot have sort of cottoned on that no one really uses it. If you do use it, please comment below this video and I'll stop banging on about Firewire, but I really believe that no one uses Firewire. I'm filming this right now on a Sony HD camcorder and I will not be connecting it to my computer via Firewire. I'll be using USB. So luckily I've got enough connections here. We also have eSATA down here, 2 USB 3.0 ports here. Now all the USB ports are powered by the A75 chipset, so no extra power needed, anything like that, no extra chipset, just to power the USB. Got Gigabit LAN, and then we've got our audio over here as well. So there is plenty of connections there available, depending on sort of what your needs are, what you actually want from the system, and that kind of thing. So that is pretty much the board in a nutshell. I'm just going to put you back onto the tripod and then we can sort of round things up and conclude on this board. So there we go. So yeah, that's the board really. I was expecting better, I'll be honest. I was expecting, I'm just going to tilt this down a little bit. I was expecting a lot better from this board in terms of features and functionality. It just seems that it's a bit of a letdown in comparison with other boards. Obviously, if you're going to go out and buy this board and you didn't know anything about the other ones on the market, it's going to look like a really great sort of component to go into a system. Obviously, you've got everything that you could possibly want. The latest technology with the FM1 socket and the APUs that I'm not allowed to talk about. You've got support for memory, DDR3 up to 1866, but you have to be careful if you are using 1866 MHz memory as to how much you're hoping to use, because you can only use 1 or 2 modules. If you are using that speed, anything below, go nuts, up to 32 gig of DDR3. Hopefully a BIOS update might actually sort that out. Other than that, there's not a lot really to say about it until we look at the performance. I'm hoping that when we do the written review on this board, we'll be able to sort of sit back and basically shut up, because I'm hoping, and I hope I'm right as well, that this board is going to sort of exceed our expectations in terms of performance. Gigabyte normally do. We normally sort of see what it's like on paper, and then when it actually comes to the crunch, they surpass our expectations, and that I think is what I'm hoping for from the A75M-UD2H. But I'm not going to sort of put any bets on at the moment, because I've got a feeling that that Asus board over there may do a little bit better, which is quite a disappointment if it does obviously for Gigabyte, not for Asus. Asus is going to winning. So I guess all I can really say is wait until we do the reviews. Don't even think about buying this board until obviously you see the performance. There has been a lot of speculation on the internet about the performance of these boards. MSI have even released some of the overclock screenshots of what they are able to get with the processors that we're not allowed to talk about. So that's very, very interesting. Obviously we're going to see what we can do with this in terms of overclocking, as well as just your general standard performance. We're going to see how it performs with the extra graphics card using the sort of hybrid APU graphics technology of the HD 6000 series. But I can't really talk to you much about that because NDA from AMD. So yeah, really just wait. That's all I can suggest to you. Wait until we get the performance figures done, and that way you can see how it's going to compare against sort of the older technology AMD components, as well as the comparison that we've got between the Asus and the Gigabyte. I'm going to speak to MSI because I really want to see how their one performs, especially after seeing these overclocks. So I'm going to speak to MSI, try and get one of the boards, and wish me luck, because it would be really good if we can get a third board sort of going to work as a better comparison across all of the main manufacturers, MSI, Asus and Gigabyte. So I'm going to stop talking now, and feel free to comment below on what you think of this board. Have a look at the Asus one as well. If you go to our YouTube channel, you can actually see there is the Asus one on there that we posted before today, and you can sort of tell us what one you think is going to outperform the other, and place your bets basically. So until next time, Andy Rafael from eTechnics.com. Keep checking back on our website, where we will have full reviews on all of this, the latest boards, the Gigabyte one, the Asus one, and also a full sort of look at the A83850. I wasn't meant to say that. Yeah, AMD APU. So until then, see you later.